Hello and welcome to this week's episode of Secure Insights. I'm excited to be joined by David, the VP of Marketing over at Tuskira. In this conversation, we dive into the agentic AI space, tackle the challenge of alert fatigue, explore the idea of AI becoming a true teammate, and of course, hear the Tuskira founding story along with what's next for the company. It's a fantastic episode and I can't wait to hear your thoughts. So I am delighted to be joined today by David over at Tuskira. Instead of me kind of rambling on and doing introductions and everything, I'm sure the listeners would much prefer to hear kind of from yourself a little bit about you, where you've come from and your role.
Yeah, absolutely. And Rosie, thank you so much for having me on. I appreciate it. I'm happy to be here. So I have been in marketing for way before I had all this fun gray hair, probably for about 17 plus years. I have been in cybersecurity for about going on 10 years now. Um, Head of marketing for probably about 12, 13 years. Jumped into the cybersecurity space, um, kind of right at the precipice of cloud migration, that mass migration of companies into the cloud and at a phase one cloud security posture management, or Gartner acronym CSPM, company, and kind of fell in love with the space, with the people, and the always on strategy, and everybody kind of working together to solve these problems, especially for our end users. I've worked at 5 startups now, and been fortunate enough to have some amazing mentors, work with some brilliant, brilliant people, and been through a few exits. Kind of just um, um, you know, tagged along for some of those. And then I worked with some founders at a company called Accurix, and we were acquired by Tenable. I am with them again now here at Tuskira, kind of get the gang back together. And whereas that was for the high level short of it, infrastructure as code, kind of CI/CD pipeline security, cloud security company. Here we are building an it's hard to say without buzzwords, but here we are building an agentic AI workforce, to work alongside the security teams for autonomous security operations. So basically, we're building AI analysts built from the customer's telemetry and simulate attack simulations inside a live digital twin to assess, to hunt, and to respond continuously before threats escalate.
Fantastic. Well, thank you for kind of running through all of that. And we're definitely going to kind of get it stuck into that throughout the conversation. I think you're right. Agentic AI is kind of booming at the moment. I'm sure if you flick on LinkedIn, it's probably the top post. One company or another has definitely adopted it. But I think it's really good just to kind of, I guess, run through it and see maybe what you guys are doing differently, kind of in the market. I guess, though, to kick off this conversation, I think we should kind of discuss something that I think every SOC team is probably battling with or knows too well, and that's the alert fatigue kind of topic.
Mhm.
How has, I guess, the definition of like high fidelity alert really changed in kind of recent years?
Yeah, I'd say, quick answer. Today it's not just about matching rules, right? It's about validating impact.
Mhm.
So high fidelity alert is one that's not only likely true, but provably exploitable and then relevant inside the context of your environment. And so I think that's the change in the definition over the last few years.
I'd say it seems like the context is kind of, I guess, playing a big kind of aspect there, really I guess separating kind of signal from noise, and I guess context kind of transforms alerts into the actionable intelligence. How does, I guess, or what role does context kind of play in that?
Yeah, context is everything, right? I mean,
Hmm.
without it, even your accurate alerts just become noise, right?
Hmm.
So, like if you look at what we do to Skira, we're and competitors and other people in the space as well are correlating vulnerabilities, correlating configurations, the exploitability, the control coverage, and then telling customers whether something is a theoretical issue or that it's actually a real threat in your environment. And again, that goes back into the importance of context.
And when it comes to, I guess, prioritization, how does Tuskira specifically kind of prioritize alerts and actions kind of first?
Yeah. So initially we're ingesting all the telemetry from your and the data, and we're normalizing that into this security mesh from your security infrastructure, your tools, your infrastructure, et cetera, right? On-prem environment, cloud infrastructure. While we do that inside that security mesh, and we ultimately create this digital twin of your infrastructure, of your applications, et cetera. And in that, our AI is going to continuously simulate attacker behavior against your actual environment, right?
Mhm.
So when we get into that prioritize alerts conversation, right? Because we're simulating attacker behavior against your actual environment in that live digital twin, we're able to identify exploitable paths, and then we're prioritizing based upon risk, not volume, right? So it's really
Mhm.
translating risk into threats based upon that continuous attack simulation against your own infrastructure. So if an alert isn't on an attack path or already mitigated by controls, then it's deprioritized immediately.
Understood. Okay, makes sense. And you kind of mentioned it there, part, I guess, the kind of AI conversation. And I feel like you can't have any conversation within security or in general without kind of, I guess, talking about AI. And I think it's a big part of kind of every security team's almost toolkits now. I feel like we have to then have that conversation. What kind of characteristics are, I guess, most important in making AI that kind of reliable partner for the security teams?
Yeah. And I mean, look, this is that part is cyclical, right?
Mhm.
Everybody talking about AI, it's because it's the new amazing technology. Again, I
The buzzword.
cloud security, yeah, but cloud security, but
Mhm.
necessary, right? I mean,
Mhm.
for all the arguments against it, I remember again back in the cloud security days, it was, you know, cloud security posture management, then it was multi-cloud, right? Then it was, and then all these were buzzwords where when you hit RSA or Black Hat, people were like, how many people are going to say they're multi-cloud? I was
Yeah.
like, agreed. However, rightfully so, right? When you blend the mechanics into the value, people start to create, make it buzzwordy. But
Mhm.
to get to your question, what makes AI essentially reliable? I'd say it's combination, and I think there's a lot of different answers here. But combination would be, speed and accuracy are expected, but I think transparency is really the key. So maybe
Mhm.
the combination of those three, right? Speed, accuracy, and transparency. So agents are going to provide, they're going to provide explainable reasoning, right? Why did they escalate something? What data did they use? And then what mitigation did they apply? And then
Mhm.
through that transparency, right, you're able, and then through that speed and that accuracy, right, you get that transparency the whole way through.
And I guess as well, it's not replacing kind of the human input. It's being able to kind of act as that, I guess, like teammate. I think that's kind of the word you just used, rather than kind of working against each other.
Yep. Yeah. Exactly. Exactly. I mean, and I don't think we're in any kind of environment, one where people want to sell AI. I mean, I guess there are some people, but most people don't want to sell AI as a replacement. I don't think most people agree right now that AI is any kind of replacement. Right now, like for us, and even for a lot of competitors we see or even people in peripheral space or in different industries, from what I see,
Mhm.
AI is very, very good at clearing up a lot of the muck work, right? So you think about like even your and my's daily job, how much of that is based, how many hours would you dedicate per week per the menial minor tasks that don't
Mhm.
necessarily go to a specific role, a hireable role, but that everybody has to do. And I think that's what AI is the best at right now. An augmentation for an individual role, a tier one to tier three SOC analyst, for instance, clearing up
Yeah.
the muck work that inhibits them from doing the strategic security work that they were initially hired for.
Yeah, and I think we'll probably get onto kind of automations and everything throughout the conversation, but there's a big discussion that if you can get what, like 20 to 30% of your time back, kind of what would you do with that? And even us in, obviously, like in recruitment, I'm a headhunter, kind of being able to automate those processes so you can actually do the job, talk to
Yeah.
more people, talk to more candidates, clients, everything like that. And you're right, implementing that for security teams so they can do the job they're hired for, but also the job that they're actually wanting to do rather than
Yeah.
these kind of menial tasks.
Yeah, I mean, exactly, right. And in that kind of analogy to security folks back into our
Mhm.
world, back into the recruitment world, right? I mean, that's exactly it. So, I mean, you take automation, the automation layer where we can automate kind of the menial and make our jobs easier, right? So you have the speed and the accurate, and you have the speed there with the automation, right? The accuracy requires more in-depth automation, right? More in-depth data analysis and training. But again, that transparency becomes the most important part of it. That reasoning, right? So now you
Yeah.
have this AI sidekick that is, again, able to provide and explain everything it's doing and why, and then build strategy or build tactical relevance off of that data rather than just simple automation. So, yeah, but which helps you, again, exponentially faster. I mean, and we've gone the slow route, right? We went to SaaS, we went to
Mhm.
automation, SaaS. Now we're getting into AI, which just makes it faster in that realm.
Exactly. And I think we've just kind of mentioned there that kind of teammate or AI acting as a teammate, but I guess it can't be kind of a perfect all the time, especially in these kind of high stake environments, high pressure environments. So how does kind of Tuskira specifically kind of manage those errors or misjudgments, if any?
Yeah. And I'd say like that goes back to the transparency thing, right? I mean,
Mhm.
that's a big issue. So I mean, in any if you're using an LLM all the way to incorporating some kind of sophisticated AI tool or platform into your general product, right? We avoid, let's say, hallucinations or misjudgments, right? So we avoid those misjudgments. So we avoid the AI hallucinations by design. I think it's accidental. My founders would be mad at me for saying that, so it's probably not. But no, it just happens, kind of
Mhm.
like Lego piece building that we avoid AI, those hallucinations in the design actual of our product. So every decision made by an AI analyst in our world has to pass through a real world validation loop before it's allowed to act, right? So that means simulating the threat and then checking it against live telemetry and then confirming that the response would actually reduce risk in your environment. So if it fails, then the agent replans. So there's no guesswork there. There's no made up outcomes. So you have this, real time simulation layer that ensures that our AI isn't just generating insights, but it's testing them continuously. So,
Mhm.
like we like to say, right, insights are AI generated, but all of the actions are reality checked. So you like any kind of security professional will never have a threat or a response inside their queue that hasn't been completely validated inside that attack simulation, inside that digital twin against their own existing security infrastructure, their
Wow.
SIM logs, etc.
Wow, that's insane. I was about to, one of my kind of follow-up questions was going to be like, how often should, I guess, kind of companies be like running these simulated attacks? But it seems like this is almost happening kind of automatically or autonomously.
Yeah. I mean, and that's kind of the, and I'm sure everything always evolves to have a more optimal path, right? I mean, you
Hmm.
look at like red teams that in pen testing that started, right? X amount of years ago, however long ago. And this is kind of an evolution on top of that, right? So
Hmm.
now instead of doing some kind of let's say red team, simulation against your tools or your infrastructure and stress testing it, however, whatever the normal cadence is, right? Once a month, once a quarter, once every 6 months. Now you do it always continuously and it never stops, right? So you are always continuously running attack simulations through your stacked vulnerabilities, your pending risks, threats, and it's all, and then, chaining the misconfigurations and chaining different attacks together inside your simulation against your infrastructure so you always know. So your defenses are getting better. So your controls are becoming more and more and more effective and more intelligent, and it's always on. And then you think about external threats, right? All the way down to like dark web TTPs and any kind of 0 day that comes. Well, that'll automatically be war gamed inside those
Wow.
attack simulation as well. Again, showing you where you're prepared, where you're not prepared, and then how to fix where you are not prepared.
Wow. Yeah, that's insane. I mean, you literally answered like three of the questions I was about to follow up with there. That's fantastic. I had no idea kind of that's what's going on, and especially with Tuskira either. So Fantastic. Well, thank you for, I guess, kind of running through all of that.
Yeah.
Um, I guess previously you kind of mentioned this at the beginning of the conversation about how the agents are very much kind of customizable. Can they be really, I guess, tuned into align with the company's kind of unique risk posture? Is that kind of how that trust is being built?
Yes, yes, yes. One great question. And I feel like people are really amazed when we show them that we can do this. And again, we're not, as much as I'd like to say we're the only ones, we are not. There's a lot of great technology being
Mhm.
built in this capacity. We're someone that utilizes it as well. So yes, right, fully, right? You can customize agents fully. So you can align agents to your SLA rules. You can align them to your critical assets list, your compliance frameworks, and you can even define how aggressive that these agents should be in recommending or executing remediations, right? And then for more advanced teams, what we're going to do is we're going at Tuskira, we're going to enable you to build your own agents, right? So you
Mhm.
can use that security mesh, semantic mesh, right? Depending on how technical people want to
Mhm.
define it, right? Or what's less buzzwordy. But
Mhm.
using that semantic mesh, the security mesh, and a schema-aware platform, you can define new agent intents. You can define the decision logic, and you can define the data access patterns as well. So each custom agent is going to operate within our guardrails, but it's going to simulate threats, execute actions. Again, you're going to get all that transparency, and you're going
Mhm.
to get all that control. So it doesn't matter if you're, let's see, it doesn't matter if you're automating a bespoke compliance workflow or if you're validating a, niche detection rule set. You can build the agent that fits your environment based on your environment.
That's insane.
Yeah.
I feel like I've had kind of over the last couple months or so had conversations similar to kind of what we're having on the podcast and obviously just kind of talking to prospective clients and everything like that. And I think this whole kind of agentic AI thing, it's what only come about in the last year or so. And before that it was kind of like Gen AI was the the buzzwords there. But I think every time I have a conversation, I learn something completely new. And the fact that Tuskira is appreciate kind of everyone has really interesting technologies and everything, but kind of, I guess, giving their customers the opportunity to customize and build upon these agents. Yeah, that's fantastic. And to be honest, I haven't had a conversation like that. So that's a big thing for the listeners there.
Yeah, and look, I'm not a technologist by any means of the word, right? I've
Mhm.
been fortunate to be around some very smart people, so I'm able to ingest like 1% of all of the stuff they, and then, thank God for, something like ChatGPT or Perplexity or something, because before I'd have to, Google definition,
Google, yeah.
piece it together through like Gartner frameworks or something. So it's helped my education in that capacity. But
Mhm.
I can say, I mean, from watching the environment from our competitors or peripheral security vendors and then outside of the security space into watching what we're doing. Yeah, I mean, you're seeing like sprints and product releases at a capacity that like Moore's law is almost is out the window, right? I mean, we're seeing it
Mhm.
at a capacity that's never been there before. So as I'll finally like learn and understand something, and then in 2 months I'll be behind, right? And
Behind, yeah.
so it's a brave new world out there, right? Little
A lot of
Huxley.
changes, but it's exciting.
Yeah.
Um, And now I know we've kind of spoken a lot about kind of Tuskira here, but I think it's always good to, I guess, provide kind of the listeners somewhat of a case study. Now, I appreciate you probably can't go into too much detail about customers or anything like that, but high level, do you, I guess, have like a real world scenario where Tuskira has been able to kind of remediate a threat?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, so let's see. We have it's like a global financial services company. It's always funny because on the marketing side, we want case studies, but a lot of the time we're never allowed to mention the companies. But we've taken companies from this specific company from about 12 million vulnerabilities to like 0.45% actionable risk, right? So
Wow.
there was this so this customer of ours, a very, very massive FinServe company, was they were dealing with just an insane amount of volume of signals across, misconfigurations, policy telemetry, vulnerabilities, right? And again, about 12 million, give or take, findings across, I think they had about 13 to 14 specific tools in this instant. And their team was struggling to separate that actionable risk from the noise. So
Mhm,
within weeks of deployments, our this we have in our security operations platform, right? We have, and it really is like kind of exposure management platform powered, right? Because you have the
mhm,
ingesting all the telemetry, making your tools better, the security mesh, the digital twin, the simulations, right? So that's really kind of optimizing your and unifying your exposure management. So when you have this kind of AI driven exposure management, we're distilling excuse me, that chaos into clarity. So we helped them reduce triage by about 99%. And then we were able to narrow focus to just, again, like less than 1% of the threats that required action. And then we were able to validate their defense posture across their identity and access management, against their web application firewalls, and against their EDR controls. Um,
yeah.
and really, so like just to go into a little bit of detail there, and again, feel free to tell me to shut up at any point in time. You open Pandora's box in that regard, right? Getting a marketing person to shut up,
Mm.
right? Almost impossible. But so what we did was, so like again, challenges where they had, give or take 12 million findings across, vulnerability management, cloud misconfigurations, their policy violations, and settings. Their SOC was a bit overwhelmed, and their remediation teams were having some trouble triaging at scale. So there wasn't a way to correlate kind of the known exploits or their defense gaps, or in our world they weren't able to simulate attacker behavior
Mhm,
in a continuous consistent method, right? And then control misconfigurations in their identity and access management, in their web application firewall controls. It created these hidden exposures. So what we did was we had our agentic AI, right? Buzzword, fun, for the deduplication and for their risk suppression there. So we removed about 7 million duplicate issues, which is about 60%
wow.
of their issues across their tools, like Wiz, Tenable, Veracode.
Mhm,
And we tagged about 3 million low to medium severity issues. And we tagged those for suppression out of the
mhm,
gate, right? So then we flagged another, these aren't, I'm trying to recall the numbers that we deal with. So some of these might be arbitrary, right? But we flagged about 400,000 vulnerabilities with known exploits. We identified another 60,000 actively exploited in the wild, and
mhm,
then we had our surface level scan uncovered about 1,000 internet exposed risks, right? Over the time period here.
mhm.
So what we were doing was we were running continuous attack simulations, as we talked about earlier, right?
Yeah.
Using inside that digital twin. And then we
Mhm,
verified coverage across their EDR, their WAF, their IAM, and their runtime controls. And then we prescribed kind of prioritized mitigations for that IAM and for the WAF mitigations, or yeah, prioritized IAM and WAF mitigations there for them, right? So, you know, the outcome there was we gave priority to over 1,000 vulnerabilities with public
mhm,
exposure and that active exploitation. And then we were able to focus remediation on really just 8 container images that were responsible for the 60,000 critical CVEs. And so the outcomes of that, which we're still, this is been a customer of ours for about 4 months now, four
mhm.
and a half months. Um, the outcomes so far have been, again, like a 99% reduction in their workload
Wow.
for triage. And their triage time has dropped from weeks to about 30 minutes in a lot of instances, right? And the focus is narrowed dramatically, right? Like I said,
Mhm.
I mean, and that was kind of like the main point, why they're sticking around with us so far, was we had the 12 million, actionable threats, and we're down to like less than 1% of that. We validated their defenses, and we're doing that continuously. And that's again back attack simulation inside that digital twin, and then creating and helping them create, or let's say not create. That's not the right word. Let's obtain and help build measurable ROI
Mhm.
across their their tools, right? So Wiz, their web application firewall, container security, et cetera.
That's insane and incredibly, I guess, impressive then, I think, especially because what you were only founded kind of what fairly recently, or the funding came in kind of fairly recently, and already kind of being trusted by obviously large organizations,
Yeah.
kind of like what you just described. It shows, I guess, how much you can trust the product and how kind of successful it has been.
Yeah, and that's kind of like the tough one too. I mean, that's a spot, I appreciate that. That's a spot on assessment. Actually, you
Mm,
highlighted something else, right? We are relatively new and in our space. It's tough to sell, especially at the enterprise level when you are so new. I think the kind of the justification there is, well, one, our product had been in stealth for about a year plus
mhm,
prior, right? Year and a half prior. We have amazing people on the back end that are all of whom are experienced multiple years, multiple founders in the cybersecurity space.
mhm,
And again, these are all like the technology today, and where I think you see people succeed the most. And again, I want to be proven wrong here, but I don't think you're going to see people with AI cybersecurity companies that are coming out without having any cybersecurity experience, right? Or build
mhm,
experience. I think all of it is going to be predicated and built upon previous experience, right? Like my co-founders,
mhm,
for instance, Piyush, Om, Vipul, and them. I mean, they've been in cybersecurity for 20, 30 years. They've been practitioners. They've been building it for other companies. They've been founders and with successful exits. So it's just evolution into where we're at now with the new mechanics that help finally provide results that we've all been striving for so long in this space.
Yeah, you're right. It's like cybersecurity with the addition of AI rather than kind
Yeah.
of vice versa. No, that makes complete sense. And kind of thank you for running through all of that. Now we have obviously kind of a variety of different listeners on this podcast, but thinking kind of for specifically for security leaders and still kind of on the same track we're talking about kind of Tuskira here, what does the kind of day one or week one experience look like for a new customer?
Yeah, I would say day one. Good question, man. You're really like putting the technical chops inside my marketing skills here, right?
Put
I
you
would
on the
say
spot here.
day one, it's probably gonna be high level, right? I'm like solutions
Mhm,
engineers are gonna be yelling at me after this. All right, but day one, you're gonna connect the tools and you're gonna start seeing data, right?
mhm,
And it's based upon, specificity. Where are your areas of concern? How can we help, right?
mhm,
Ideally, yes. Would we love to ingest? Would we love to take like Nike's entire environment and ingest it? Yeah. How long would that
mhm,
take, right? Connecting the tools, et cetera. So with that aside or that understanding, we're going to connect tools and we're going to start seeing data immediately, right? Relatively fast. So week one, you're going to have your start having your let's say your AI agents, right, on the back end are going to
mhm,
start triaging vulnerabilities. They're going to start validating coverage, and they're going to start recommending mitigations. And then they're going to have that evidence, that transparency, right? That evidence, the reasoning, and the risk scores are going to be attached. And that's really what day one, week one looks like, right? So connect the
mhm.
tools, start seeing data. Um, that's gonna be ingested into that security mesh, right? With your data. We're going to start building the digital twin on the back end, and we're going to start getting prepared to run those attack simulations. But in that first week, you're going to be seeing all the back end agents that are working for you, triaging vulnerabilities, validating your defense posture, and then again, recommended mitigations are going to start with all of the reasoning behind it.
I think keeps going back to that point, like you mentioned there, about kind of the transparency and trust in any security
Yes.
kind of implementation, but especially when it comes to these AI agents.
And that's a and awesome, great call out because that's like the
Mhm,
massive differentiator. Like if you think about like how we use, let's say how we use like the populations use like any kind of LLM, right? And regardless of how sophisticated, what proof or evidence do we have that anything we're
Mhm.
getting, and you got to think about some of the weird abstract questions that people are probably asking that thing, right? Like, is there something above? And it's like, yes, good, right? Figured that out. My point
Mhm.
being, though, how do you know any of the answers you're getting are unbiased
Mhm.
or real, right? Or it's not hallucinating or creating false positives. So I think when you are utilizing AI and building, you know, AI for any industry, but obviously in this conversation for security, transparency becomes the absolute key. And that's why we built, you have the semantic layer in that security mesh, and then ingesting all of the telemetry and their security data. So the guardrails are already in place and it's inside that security mesh. We create a replication, a live replication of their environment so that we can stress test and war game through those attack simulations. And so we have the semantic layer, we have that knowledge graph layer, and then we have that agent orchestration layer. And it becomes this massive feedback loop that's testing and validating against itself. And there's humans in the loop there as
Mhm.
well, right? The entirety of the time, that are seeing these findings, either pushing these mitigations out or denying them, and then it's getting smarter and smarter and smarter with all those interactions as well.
Yeah, because of course AI can take us so far, but it still needs that, like we said, that human kind of
Yes.
input there and the
Yeah.
analysis.
Yes. I mean, especially in a lot of we've seen a lot of companies that have
Mm.
made mistake might be a strong word, but have gone a little bit too far too fast. That do not think that's the right move in security anywhere in the very near future. So again, to your point, yeah, teammates augmentation for
Mhm.
sure. Clear up the muck work. In no way a replace. No, I mean, no, nor can it really be a replacement
No,
at this point, right?
no. And then I guess kind of just to kind of finish off this conversation here, looking, I guess, ahead, what's kind of next for Tuskira kind of specifically, any new features or anything like that, or even just kind of what does the next like 6 to 12 months look like, the build out?
Yeah, I'm trying to go. I'm trying to run what I'm allowed to talk about and what I'm not allowed.
Yeah, maybe digging a bit deep
No
there.
matter how many startups you work at, right? And no matter how much you just want to like, let's tell the world what we have, still have like the constraints are put on. Because again, there's so many different brilliant, smart people out there in our and cybersecurity now, 72 vendors for every issue now, right? And with all brilliant people
Wow.
behind them. I would say one, we're really, really working on our refining everything and perfecting everything in our product, making sure
Mhm.
transparency is of utmost importance. We are building new agents continuously, so domain trained agents out of the box. We're building, so we have a GRC agent that's going to be able to help with auditing and compliance across your entire environment, an
Wow.
identity agent. And perfecting our identity agent that's going to be able to help with all of your identity and access management issues and control issues there. Um, and then being able to correlate all that data across your entire environment. And then let me figure out a strategic way to say this where I'm not revealing it too much. I would say maybe not the main problem, but for security vendors and for, security teams that want to actualize the benefits quickly, time to value
Mhm.
of the security vendors, time to value becomes really, really, really important, right? Real time to value. And I look at like companies like I was in the CSPM space when Wiz kind of came of origin.
Mhm.
And then Orca as well. And I watched what they did, and it was really, really impressive. They did a lot of really good things right, obviously, right?
Yeah.
Understatement of the year. But what they started off with was this like side scanning functionality where they were able to kind of take snapshots of the environment and show value really, really quickly while their
Mhm.
actual product built all the integrations and the connectors on the back end, right? So what I can say is no, we don't have side scanning functionality, but we have figured out a way to very, very, very quickly show immediate time to value without having to worry about integrating with the 50 plus security tools that these companies are showing. And that, if done effectively, you never know, right? But if done effectively, should be should be very fun for us on the Tuskira side and for our customers as well.
Fantastic. Well, I'm excited to see kind of what the next year or so and the future obviously has for you guys. And of course, we will kind of drop load of links into the comment section so anyone can kind of get in touch.
Yeah.
If someone did want to kind of reach out, what's the best way? Where would you kind of recommend them going?
Yeah, I just email me, right?
Hmm.
Right now, we're still a young startup. I don't even think we have like a marketing at or like a sales at Tuskira yet. So David at Tuskira.ai is probably the best right now. And then if that ever starts to get overloaded, I'll get to creating one of those general mailboxes for it. But that'll
Well,
go direct to me.
we'll drop that as well, just so if anyone does want to kind of reach out, they can do so and easily as well. But thank you so much for the conversation today. It's been fantastic, and yeah, excited to see where I guess the world of agentic AI is going to go, but specifically Tuskira.
Yeah, no, spectacular questions. And again, really, really appreciate you having me on. This has been a lot of fun.
No problem at all. And then for the listeners, of course, we'll catch them next week on the episode.